Hi, Katie.
Hello.
I'm so happy to have this beautiful conversation about relationships with you today.
Yes, I'm excited to dive into the topic with you and to see what flows from us.
Beautiful human listening. Hi, it's Eleanor Evans Medina. I'm so happy to have you here on the Makaranda Podcast, where we talk about life, death, and all the places in between that really matter to us. And as many of you know, I am a formally trained marriage and family therapist and relationship coach. And I love relationships because we are constantly in relationship with everything all the time.
Yep.
We're in relationship with the earth. We're in relationship with ourselves. We're in the relationship with our cars. We're in relationship with our thoughts. Everything is a relationship. And I am so excited to have Katie Rössler here on our podcast today to share her magic as a relationship expert. So Katie, I would love for you to take a moment and really introduce yourself to these beautiful humans here, and then we can start to dive into your expertise of relationship strategy today on the call.
Excellent. So yes, I'm Katie Rössler, and I am by profession a licensed professional counselor, studied marriage and family therapy as well. And about 8.5 years ago, I moved from the United States to Munich, Germany. And this is where I live with my husband and 3 daughters. We didn't have 3 daughters when we moved here. We only had 1. We were pregnant with the second, and now we have 3. And I practice relationship coaching, and I call myself a relationship strategist here, because often what I'm doing is really helping couples to create practical strategies and a real clear map of how to build the relationship they want to have. Most of the couples I work with are bicultural, multilingual, so we often bring in, all of those complexities and challenges that brings. And they are typically really high achieving, goal driven, very motivated, type A, perfectionist, all the things you hear, right? Hyper independent. These individuals who are really seeing, after about 10 years of being together, that it's time to rebuild their relationship in a way that feels much more in alignment. And I always like to say, whenever there's an upgrade to any technology, it isn't because the other was broken. It's usually because there's just newer ways of doing stuff, or we've gained wisdom from the past. And it's the same in a relationship that, every 7 to 10 years, it's really good for us to reassess and to look at the habits that we've been in and the autopilot mode we go into in our relationship, and how we can start to shake things up, get more creative again, and have a better connection. Because often my clients, because they've been together for so long, and sometimes they have kids, sometimes they don't, they don't always think about what they're doing. It's not intentional. Mm-hmm. And yet they desire to have a relationship that is intentional. And so we work together to really build that. I've authored 2 books. I worked in the grief space for a long time, and not death grief, but grief related to everything else. So I call it hidden grief, And so I wrote 2 books in that sort of wheelhouse, and I have a podcast as well. It used to be called The Balance Code for the High Achiever. It was really about work-life balance. And now I've transitioned to focusing it really on relationships, which is, my work, and what I was finding is so many were craving more tools for that. Mm-hmm. And so it's called Relationship Reset. And it's that kind of that mindset again that, we can hit the reset button. It doesn't have to stay this way. We're not stuck like we think we are.
So y'all, if you're ready to shake things up in your relationship with yourself or with your partner and build stronger connection through strategy, you're in the right place.
Yes.
So glad you're here to have this conversation with Katie and me. And I love, Katie, that you just talked about relationship reset, because I was literally working on a relationship program right now, and I called it the Relationship Reset.
Oh, that's awesome.
I don't know if that's the name we're going to stick with, but it's just so perfect that we're so in sync.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, because as we're studying this is what we see needs to happen.
Right. And collectively, I mean, when you talked in the beginning about we're in relationship with so much, all of it needs to hit the reset button. Like there's so much that we need to learn how to have relationship again with things, with people, with, the people that matter to us. Because especially over the last 5 years as a collective, we've endured so much trauma and challenges and gone through kind of upgrades in a way that maybe we weren't really ready for it or aware of what was going on. And now is the time to reassess and reset.
Exactly. So as we, I have to say, I do think we were ready for it. We had no idea. But this COVID situation is, I think, a lot of what we're referring to.
Yeah.
It was absolutely necessary for a reset. It kept it gave us an opportunity to stop. Or it didn't give me an opportunity to stop. I was working on freaking a hyperdrive because everybody needed help.
Yes.
But everybody else around me was like, oh my God, my husband, every single one of his project, he had 9 projects lined up for the year. Every single one of them halted the same week.
Yeah.
I mean, and all of a sudden, all these people in my home, I was living with my husband and then my sister and then 2 of our best friends. And then those best friends were also dating amazing people who were over all the time. So I had this amazing little COVID pod I felt so blessed just to be surrounded by my favorite people ever. Yeah. And so to really be in that place and have everybody stop, it was like, what are we doing?
Yep.
Wait a second. Do I want to be doing that?
Yeah.
Do I like the person who I'm living with? If I don't, I better figure that out.
Right. Right. Or we're kind of stuck for a year or so, but yes, I need to figure this out.
And I think it was a hyperdrive. I think it was like a catapult for people to really see. And luckily, I really love the people that I lived with, so that worked out really well.
Yes.
But there were a lot of people who were like, whoa, I need a reset, or this isn't going to work for me anymore. And so what are some of the things that you saw that really shook things up for people in that time?
Yeah. A big piece of the puzzle was couples were forced to sit together and have more time than they'd ever had to talk or to sit in silence and in the awkward, right? And the energy of the unspoken, and the elephant in the room consistently was there. And the couples that I was working with at the time were in crises because it was, how are we going to deal with these things that maybe happened even 5, 7, 10 years ago, but now that we're sitting together, because often one's a consultant gone all the time, the other one's taking care of the kids and working part-time or full-time, and now they're all in the home together. And it's like, how do we balance what needs to be said with taking care of the kids, with getting our work done, with, all the and. So it was a pause, but it wasn't for those couples. It was more of a, like a pressure cooker of now that we're here. And in Germany, it was, I know depending on where you are in the world, there are different levels of lockdown. Here in Germany, it was very serious. Police officers driving down the street, making sure people weren't out. It was very serious, the lockdown here. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm angry at you, I'm going to go for a walk. It was like, I'm angry at you, I'm going to go in the bathroom. And that piece was such a struggle too. There was no pause or break. There was no going to the office to get away. There was no let's meet at a cafe. There's no I'm going to go to a friend's house. So I really noticed that couples were forced to either figure it out or to say, like you said, I'm not happy and I can't do this. And many sought out support, whether it be counselors or coaches or whatever it might be, to get that sort of mentorship and those tools. And many decided not to. And they walked away from the pandemic in divorce or staying in it, but knowing this is not what they wanted. And I think for me, watching that and working with so many, it did impact me, and I ended up having a bit of a burnout. I was also pregnant with our third into that experience too. So I got to have a break as well. And I took about a year's time off, which is quite normal over here in Europe to have maternity leave for a year to 3 years. And I was like, I'm taking a year off.
Yes.
And I'm just going to like take a break. Because as much as I love working with couples, and you know this, if you're in it too long, you only see the trees in front of you, you can't see the forest.
Right.
That kind of is what happened. And I really need to take a break. And when I took a step back, I started doing the grief work, because that's what was really prominent too during that time, as while people are grieving, there's anticipatory grief, there's a realization of I'm having to face feelings about things from my past that I need to deal with. So still in relationship, right? Still working with relationships in that sense. But I focused in grief work and then coming back into the relationship work now. What's really interesting, and I don't know if you're seeing this too, is I feel like this year in particular, last year and this year, couples are almost going to how they were pre-pandemic. And they're like, go, 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 and this and that, and we detach, and we're not, like, it's almost like we didn't learn anything. And I'm often having to bring people back to the, like, what did you learn during that time? Mm-hmm. I think we're so...
Interesting.
We don't integrate as well as we should. The lessons we've learned, and we go on to the, okay, here's my next goal, and I'm going to go on to this. And people are going back into burnout mode. Instead of going, wow, I realized my life was too complex. I was saying yes to way too much. And the moment that I had to say no, because legally I had to, right? Like I couldn't anymore go out. You know, I was hearing clients say, gosh, this is so nice also to just not have to be anywhere, have to do anything. Mm-hmm. And last year and this year, I really noticed the clients are going like, God, I've just got so much on my plate and I've got no time. And I'm like, whoa, did we not learn? Did we not learn that we actually have a choice in a lot of the things that we're doing? That piece.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So let's lay out some potential learnings.
Yeah.
Because I'm imagining people are out there like, what did I learn? So maybe we just even pause and invite you, beautiful listener, into the curiosity of what did you learn during the time of the pandemic? Just take a few breaths with that curiosity. One thing that came up for me, Katie, and just getting quiet for a moment, which is a technique that I have that I recommend we all do more often than we maybe do, to just check in with the self, because mostly we already know. It just takes a minute, quiet the mind. But sometimes things come really fast if we give it. So mine was the importance of relationship. I mean, obviously, but I really learned how... So I care about nature the most. Mm-hmm. And what really struck me more than anything was how they, at least in the United States, they put caution tape on the playgrounds.
Mm-hmm. Same here. Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That was the moment where I walked outside and saw that and was like, oh no, this is bad. In my version of bad, maybe taking the right or wrong off the table is something I'm really working on. But in my body, it was just like, we're not letting the kids run and move around outside.
Right.
And not even to mention the adults.
Right.
I mean, I know about myself, I was a extremely anxious child. I mean, just put on ADHD, Ritalin when I was 6 years old because I had so much energy, and the only way that I felt at peace was when I was going outside.
Yeah.
And I'm still that way. In fact, I have a nature-based practice because of what that does for me.
Right.
I mean, yeah, it's super helpful for my clients, but what's also helpful for me?
Yeah.
And that's a really interesting point that you made too about you, Katie, needing to take time to take care of yourself. And we set a beautiful example by doing that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And it's a reminder that how much we take in the energy of the people around us and how we do need to clear that space, right? We need to take those pauses and go, whew, let me release this so I don't keep carrying it with me.
And one of the tools that I use in my practice is to release that by going outside.
Yeah.
You know, put your hands on the earth. Please, beautiful Mother Earth, compost this energy that is not mine.
Yeah.
And she does it.
Yep.
And then the other piece I'll say about that is the importance of then saying, and Mother Earth, what do you need from me in return? Because it's not just Mother Earth, take my shit.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Thanks, bye.
Yeah, it's like, and what do you need from me? And really building that language in, just like we can with our relationships with our loved ones.
Yes.
Hey, I could really need your support with this. What do you need from me? Right? So it's not just one directional feedback.
Right. And I think that's so essential, and we're lacking that. And that is a big piece for me where the social media culture has made it so that it's often just a one-way street and not a real discussion. Like you said, here's my needs. How can I support you in meeting your needs?
Yes.
And we forget that when we're in relationship with people, romantic relationship, friendship, even coworkers, we bring our unfinished business, is what I like to call it, that unfinished business to the table. And how we respond and how we react and what emotions come up, what triggers us. And if we're not having those open discussions about, hey, I need this from you so that I can, jive in this relationship better. But what do you need from me?
Right.
We tend to stop at but what do you need from me? We tend to go like, this is what I need.
I need this.
Yeah. Okay. And you have to give this to me. And that's not how relationships are built. But I am noticing every kind of these generations that are coming up, it's not a two-way street anymore. It's very talk to, not talk with.
Whoa. Can you paint more of a picture about what you mean about the social media culture? Because I hadn't heard this before, and I think it could be a strategy almost.
Definitely. So, when we read something, we could post, right? We could post on social media. But then if we read somebody's comment, we post our thoughts or our feelings. And then we get off and we go on to something else. And maybe we come back to it if we see that we were tagged in it. But it's not really this active in the moment, unless somebody's immediately on and responds, conversation. So it's very much like, here's what I'm doing. Here's what I think. Here's what I'm feeling. Great. And in relation with others, let's find out how they respond to that, what they think or feel.
Right.
I remember when Facebook was first created, and even when Twitter first came out, it was just, people would write like one sentence, and it was funny because your name was like, it would be like, Katie Rössler is super tired today, right? Like that's how you would write a post. It was your name, and then you would finish out the sentence of like what she is. And then it evolved to like, let me show you what I'm doing right now, or what I'm eating right now, and then it evolved to let me show you all my thoughts and feelings about everything. And then, like it just grew. And it was one of those things where it's like, it's very interesting. We have all these complex thoughts during the day. We have all these things we want to share, and all of a sudden we have a way to share it. But because it went that route, it wasn't as, let's have a conversation about it. Instead, it's, I post my thoughts and feelings, bam, gone. If I don't like yours, I'm going to say what I think, but it will not be a, hey, good point. Or, hey, I disagree with this sentence, but I see your point of view in this. It isn't discussions. And then we bring that into our relationships, right? We've been reading that content all day long. We've been sharing that content. And even if you're like, well, no, I work all day, at some point you're probably doom scrolling and like going off into, let me just consume, maybe share some things. But even in that consuming, it's one way.
Right.
And so we're not learning how to have these conversations, and we're noticing, children struggle with feeling uncomfortable with eye contact, with how to have, respectful communication with anybody. And like, I have a 10-year-old, she's my oldest, and I will often say, you can call that person. You don't have to send them a little message after school to say, can you play? Like, you can actually call them. She's like, oh yeah. And I'm like, it's faster. Like you get their voice and you don't have to like wait for a written message. And so it's like trying to teach her that, yes, you live in an age where technology is so like instant gratification, and you could send a text message or a voicemail, but a phone call where you actually get to interact with the other person is great too. In fact, better. Often.
That's a really great strategy as well. Okay, everybody hear this? Pick up the phone.
Right? With your friend, with your partner.
Honestly, I'm thinking about that right now.
Yeah.
I'm like, how can I be better at that?
Yeah.
I could totally call more people. And you know what? When someone calls me, in fact, one of my friends called me the other day and I missed it. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's calling. Like, that's so great, you know? And it's a totally different thing. And the other thing I'll say, Katie, I get super overwhelmed by my phone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I talk about a relationship that I struggle with, which I don't really have many.
Yeah.
I might even say that the relationship that I struggle with is the one with technology.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
I tell people, and I know that my words create my reality, so I'm mindful about what I say. But I say, I'm going to be specific about how I say it right now too. Please have compassion with my response time.
Yeah. Yep. Yes. And within that, for you to also say to yourself, I don't need to apologize if it took me a little longer to respond. Because I think that culture started to develop in relationships too with text messaging or voicemails, or like, it used to be if it took you a while to respond to somebody, nobody cared, right? You get a phone call from your friend or whomever, and if it took you a day or two, you just called back whenever. In this time of instant gratification, we feel like, oh, I'm so sorry it took me so long to respond to your email. It's the same freaking day. Who cares, right? Or even if it's 24 to 48 hours, you responded. I had to break myself out of that cycle of, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get back to you right away. And who cares if they saw you read the message or listened to the voicemail or, whatever.
Right.
You don't have to. and there's no need to apologize for it.
Yes.
And
my
what's
mom,
funny...
oh, just one thing on that, and I want to hear what your funny thing is.
Yeah.
My mom says, instead of saying, I'm sorry for apologizing, saying, thank you for your patience.
Yep.
That's a totally different way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The funny thing I was going to share is in couples, what I notice is that they're so quick to apologize to their friends or their coworkers or even strangers.
Whoa.
But to each other, they don't take ownership for things. To the relationship you would want to respond to the fastest, right? That you would want to, that doesn't happen. And I think the
deal
longer...
with that.
Right? The longer couples are together, it's sort of like, I'll see you at the end of the day, or we'll get to that later. And I'm like, ooh, if you have an abandonment wound, that one's getting hit on repeat. If your partner isn't responding, but you know that they respond to everybody else faster. And that piece, often I have to work with couples on.
Wow.
Because it's like, again, we bring our unfinished stuff. We bring the things we're here to work on in this lifetime. We bring that to the forefront. And it's like how to help. Like, let's say you and I were in a relationship and you had the abandonment wound and you're like, it would be me going, even though I don't want to respond to her right now, I know that this actually will hurt her more than me just taking a couple seconds and going, I got your message. I'll respond later. Right? Like that would be like, oh, thank you to you. Mm-hmm. I have to get out of autopilot mode and out of my like, she's my partner, whatever. I gotta work. I gotta do something else and go, this matters to my partner. And because she matters to me, I'm going to respond.
That's right.
Just like I would a stranger, just like I would a friend, just like, whomever else. But our minds go, well, like, they're here, whatever. I'll see them later. Maybe we'll talk then. And so we don't treat our partners with the same level of respect as we do others. We'll apologize to others. Oh, I'm sorry I'm so late, but we'll be late for dinner with our partner. I'm so sorry I'm on my phone. Let me put this away, but we'll have it out in front of our partner when we're supposed to be connecting. We don't show them this respect. We don't. Like you know this, we are a mirror for our partner and vice versa. So how we're treating our partners, how actually we're treating ourselves and how we view ourselves.
That's right.
And we treat everybody else better.
Wow. Yep. Those couple of, I was kind of like, no, I don't do that. And then the one that got me, because I actually, the one that got me was sending, like being on my phone in front of my partner. But John, my husband is absolutely amazing. He always puts me first. That's like beautiful. If he has a message from me, he will always respond to me.
Yeah.
Do you know how special that makes me feel?
Yes.
I feel like I am number freaking one in his life, and he tells me all the time and shows me all the time and does that by simple things like we're at the dinner table and he's like, hey babe, is it okay if I send this one message? Like he'll ask me.
Yeah.
I know you really don't like having the phone out at dinner. This one thing came to mind. Is it okay if I do that? Which is a totally different thing than him being at the dinner table and not engaging with me.
Yep.
But then now thinking like, sometimes I'll pull out my phone and be like, okay, how can I be better? Yeah. Is what your comment just brought up for me. Okay, How can I also give him that same respect?
Right.
With specifically the technology thing.
Right.
Mostly other things for us is wonderful. Like I feel so grateful for that. And we take really good care of ourselves.
Good.
That's what John said the other day. He said, you know what? I love how well you love yourself. Because that awesome. Helps you love me.
Yes.
Right? Which is the biggest thing for me in this relationship world is like, actually, it's the relationship with yourself.
Yes.
And we both you have relationship starters,
Right.
and I have relationship check-ins that I give my students and that I share.
Yeah.
And they are the one I'm like reworking my relationship check-ins. I have series of them. One is a romantic relationship check-in that John, my husband, actually created for us in the beginning of our relationship. He was like, look, Eleanor, like this relationship I have with you is totally different. Like 2 weeks into dating, he's like, I want to talk with you about the things that made my other relationships not work.
Yeah.
And I want to do this better. And so I have this idea, like, do you want to go over these questions with me once a month to make sure that we're communicating with each other properly? And like my inner therapist self who was like praying for a partner like this for years. I was like manifesting this partner so over and over and over. 2 weeks in, I'm like, I'm going to marry him.
Right? You're like, this is it.
This is what I've literally been praying for. But it's so interesting because like the other part of my brain was like, but he's not what you thought he was going to look like. And he's not what you thought you were going to have. And you wanted this other like idea of a person, but this person who's in front of you is not that. Right. And it took me some time to like actually let myself be loved.
Yeah.
Fully. And I thought I was really open for that. Anyway, the relationship check-ins really helped with that and allowed for me to open more and more and more starting at the beginning of our relationship, but has set us up for incredible success. And I'm redoing it this last week. And I was like, oh my God, I have a relationship check-in for romance. I have a relationship check-in for families. I have a relationship check-in for business, but I don't have a relationship check-in for self.
Yes, you need that.
Oops. So I'm making it right now.
Good.
And it's going to be a bonus in the check-ins because I'm like, this is actually the most important one.
Right. Right. Yeah, I always say that the only reason that we need to do personal growth is for the relationships around us, right? The whole context of why you work on yourself is to be better in the context of relationship. Because if you're doing it better, like I'm just doing it for me, okay, then go on an island, but you will never reap the benefit of that personal growth if you're not in relationship with others. And the only way to do personal growth is in relationship with others, because it's that space in between the two of you where the work is being done, right? That's where it's like, oh, I'm uncomfortable by what you just said. I feel it between us. That's personal work I need to do, right? Like we won't have the quote triggers for us to go, oh, that's something I need to explore when it's just by yourself.
Totally.
So I often have, and you have seen this probably too in the personal growth and spiritual growth space. It's just this whole like, I've just pulled away from everybody and I'm going inward. And I'm like, that's great. Make sure you row back off to the mainland from your little island, because you're not going to know if the growth you're doing is like, what direction are you taking with it? And does it make sense? And I find when there is a partner in a relationship who goes and does that like inner work and that inner journey and doesn't involve their partner in it, they come back and typically that leads to divorce.
Yes.
Because they have not brought them along. They may not understand your journey. They may not want to go on the journey too, but at least you've talked with them about it. You've done
Correct.
check-ins like you're talking about, right? Like, let me share with you what I'm exploring. Let me share with you what I've realized about myself.
That's right.
So that they're with you along that way.
Yep.
And that's something I think has been a big disservice to the people who go and do that type of work and go, okay, I need to go on that journey and I need to get away for 4 weeks, or I go on this retreat and things. And I think as leaders, as mentors, as counselors, as coaches, we need to speak to the importance of the relationships you are in, friendships, romantic, family, and how you can involve them in your process.
That's right.
And if they don't want to stick around, okay. but not because you isolated them from your process.
So important. I was just talking with my sister about this the other night and how valuable it is to be able to open and share. You go away for a weekend, you go do some deep healing work, you're working with plants, you're working with different medicines to help awaken the self. You don't always have to have the partner right there, but you certainly have to be able to integrate with them.
Yep. Yeah.
You certainly have to be able to say, this is what I'm going through and this is what I'm experiencing. And, I do really deep nature-based healing with clients, and I recommend them doing it as sometimes first individually and then as a couple, because when one person is on the deep spiritual path and the other person isn't, they will grow in different directions.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's okay. That's perfect.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's exactly where their life paths are taking them, and no judgment around it. And also, if our students are going to grow in a similar direction, the conversations need to be there. And what I love and the healthiest relationships are the ones that tell me more.
Yes.
How did that make you feel? How did that come through? I don't even, just this deep curiosity that we have to bring more out and through so that it helps us integrate the experience. And it might not always be with the romantic partner. It might be with a friend. It might be with, something else. But if we are talking romantic, having that kind of ability to go deep with each other is, in my view, the sexiest thing.
Yes. Definitely.
Like to be known.
Yeah.
And to want to be known by the people we're in relationship with.
Which makes us have to sit with ourselves and know ourselves, because it's uncomfortable then if we sit with someone else wanting to be curious about us and ask questions and better understand. And so it goes back again to, like you're saying, it's so essential we have a good relationship with ourselves in order to have good relationships with others. And I find that when we've been so goal-driven, like the clients that I work with, we've detached our heads from our bodies, right? We're just in like go, go, go mode and got to get it done, and busy schedule and say yes to the things and move up the corporate ladder or whatever it might be, right? And we kind of hit, late 30s, early 40s, this moment of like, wait, where am I? What is this?
Right.
And there's this, it's like that disconnect from nature, right? When you've been stuck inside a concrete building for so long, and then you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. It's bright green out here. What is this place? Right? Like, this is Earth. It's like, it's like that in between of like, oh my God, who am I? What is this? Am I happy? I don't know. And once you start to get tapped back into who you are, what you want, you start to see a relationship different. And I think people start to panic because it's not what they want it to be. And they don't realize that there are people like you and I out there who are there to teach them the skills to create a new and more beautiful relationship than they had created from the beginning.
That's right.
Because everyone has changed. And your check-ins are wonderful because it's reminding us that even month to month we change. Yes. We're growing and evolving. We're taking steps back. And if we're not doing that together, if we're not checking in, even if it's quarterly or, once a year, I love to do a goal workbook for my couples once a year where it's like, let's get on the same page of goals for our relationship. Not like get the taxes done and finally clean out the basement, but like us. What do we want, right?
Yes.
And it's like, if we're not having time to sit down and go, are we happy? Is this what we want? And it is absolutely normal to ask the question, are we happy? Even together. And one of you might go, yeah, I am. And the other might go, I'm not. That means you come together and figure out how to make both of you happy in it.
Right.
Not, oh, it's your problem. Though you may have seen this too. I find that there's this imbalance. It's cultural, it's gender, it's generational, where I'll come and get support because you need the help. Because you've got the stuff you want to work through. I'll come and support you. And inevitably that partner ends up doing the work too, because they're in the space of someone like you and me who's like, did you notice you have this pattern?
Did you see
and
that about yourself?
Right? Did you just see this thing that, you're here to support your partner. Good partner. Good job. Well done. Did you notice that you're adding to the system in this way?
Correct.
And so it's that piece of like, hey, I'm not happy, but you're happy, or you say you're happy. And I want to get support. And you say you will only come and get support if it's through the lens of me figuring myself out. Say yes to it, please. Say okay, because inevitably they will work out their stuff too. It's the foot in the door, but I see pride get in the way often, where people are like, I'm not the only one who has a problem. I shouldn't be the only one who has to work on things. You have stuff you need to work on too. We send them the podcast and the blog post and the video. Watch this. Look at this. See, this is your stuff. This is what you do. And it's like, stop. If they have said yes to getting support, but it's through the context of you taking care of you, bring them.
Love it.
Bring them.
Brilliant.
Change will happen by them being in the presence of hearing and seeing your healing and being challenged to do their own.
I love that. That seems like an upgrade.
Yes.
For both people.
Yeah.
Or not just both, because we are a system. So what's good for one person is good for two, is multiplied for four,
right,
for eight, for the concentric circle goes on for the butterfly effect.
Yep.
So let that be what it does.
Right. Allow it and let go of the ego and the pride around. You need to take ownership that you need healing too. And a big way that the program that I've established for couples that have been together for a while is called the Legacy Marriage Program, because I want them to understand having a healthy relationship is legacy work. Almost 50% of marriages divorce. And so generations below us are watching us and going, how do you be emotionally intelligent in a relationship? How do you have healthy communication when you disagree? How do you make difficult decisions as a pair and not as an individual? Mm-hmm. It's legacy work that we're doing when we work on our relationship. And the couples I work with are starting to tap into the reality of like, they want to leave legacy work with their business. They want to legacy work with, the people that matter to them. And I'm like, well, what about in your marriage? That's legacy work. And their eyes are being opened to the fact that rebuilding their marriage more in alignment creates a lasting legacy. If they've got kids, for their kids, if they've just got family members and friends, for their relationship. So it's exactly what you said. It's like a ripple effect. And we need to honor our marriage, our longer-term relationship with that. This is legacy work.
Yes.
And legacy's not left after we die. We just tend to hear about it after someone dies. My favorite teachers that created the biggest impact are still alive, and were alive when they left the legacy, right? So these are things where it's like, we got to see this is legacy. This is legacy work, working on a relationship. Wow. And that is not to say that every marriage should last and there should be no divorce. No, but I think a lot of people walk away before they're willing to do the legacy piece of this work of like, let me really heal stuff in me. Let me really figure this out. Let me learn this, because in the context of our relationship, I trust you enough to do this work with you. And if we don't make it at the end of this, at least we have built something that other people can go, wow, they really worked hard. And even though it didn't work, they communicate great together. They still have a friendship there, right? Like there's a foundation there that others can go, wow, like if something doesn't work out for me and my partner, I at least want to be like them.
I love this idea of relationship as legacy.
Yeah.
And legacy before we die.
Right.
As
people
living.
talk about this all the time, like, oh, the legacy they left. And like, left, they were like the stories you're telling me were actively when they were alive. Like that impacted you. So it's not when we die. It's
Whoa.
When you smile at a stranger and you've left an impact in their life, right?
That's right.
These are pieces we don't think
I've never thought
about
that before. I love also the name of this program that you have. It sounds so powerful. You know, as we round out our conversation today, Katie, I'm wondering if there's anything that you want to share that is a strategy to help pierce. I think we've talked about it a bit throughout our conversation, but if there's any, couple of steps that you might recommend people take in the relationship with themselves and the relationship with their partner right now that could be supportive to them before they, have access to the rest of our work.
Yeah. I'll provide you the link. I have these conversation starter cards, and it's questions that actually are really good to ask yourself first before you ask your partner.
Great.
To sort of reflect on what would my answer be and why. Not just off the cuff, like, but they're intended for deeper connection. So if you ask yourself the questions in the context of yourself, what is a memory that makes me smile when I think of it from my past in relationship with me? Like, what is something I did that I'm proud of, or that just I get excited thinking about? What, right? That's like gratitude work right there. And then to ask your partner, what is something that you think of about from our relationship that makes you smile every time you think of it? And so these questions are a great way for us to start to open the door to a deeper connection with ourselves and with our partner. So I'll make sure that you've got that link for the show notes.
Wonderful.
And then I think the next step is to say, where does it feel like sandpaper in my relationship? Where does it feel like we're kind of going against the grain with each other? And what might that be about? Get curious. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Am I happy in this relationship? Is this really what I want? That doesn't mean I need to put my foot out the door. That means we need to rebuild and restructure.
That's right.
It's time, right? Like, we remodel a home because there's a point where it gets a little bit old and we want something to be a little bit different. I joke with my clients all the time because there's always that, well, I sometimes wonder if it would be like this in another relationship. And I was like, oh, the grass is definitely greener on the other side. You have to cut the grass wherever you go, though. You're going to bring your problems to that lawn, and you're going to have to do lawn care, right? Like, so no matter what, you'll be doing this work.
Yes.
You either make this grass greener, or you go off into another relationship and have to do the same work because the grass is going to die over there too.
That's right. My mom always says, and it might be a famous quote, but I've heard it from my mom, you take yourself wherever you go.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. You'll be there too. Yes.
Yes, exactly. And we're given these relationships, or we choose these relationships to work out what we need to. And at some point, we say, okay, this is still supporting my growth. And then sometimes you outgrow.
Yeah.
And that's equally as important.
Yep.
To be aware of, but to create, I have a dream of creating a new generation for our children where they know what it's like to have their parents come home and give each other I call it the homecoming kiss, where they come in and they kiss for 6 seconds as first thing. Like, John gets in the door and I'm like, okay, unless I'm like in the middle of a client call,
right.
I will put down whatever I'm doing and I will go, I hear the garage and I'm like, oh. And my mom used to do this. I learned this from my mom. My parents are still madly in love 40 years later. Mm-hmm. And mom would be like, Daddy's home. And she would get so excited. She would go to the door and say, welcome home, babe. So happy to have you. And my dad does that to my mom too. It's like this reciprocal thing that they do for each other. Mm-hmm. And it really taught me as a young girl that I can have that. And John, my husband, had the opposite. Mm-hmm. And he, the cool thing is you can learn these skills that Katie and I are teaching you. Yep. Yeah. These get to be, you don't have to have a home like I did growing up in order to be able to take these lessons.
Right.
And I think these relationship starters sound wonderful and a great way for us to practice getting deeper, because sometimes we don't know how to ask a deeper question, right? That's my love language, when someone's like, tell me more, but we don't maybe have the natural instinct of how to do that. So your relationship cards can really support that process to open some doors for people.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. That kind of goes back to that. We don't know how to ask those questions because we're not having good conversations anyways, right? We're so busy. We're so short with each other, text message, voicemail. We're not having those deeper things. So it really does create a space where you're like, I love that question, right? Let me go ask my friend that question too. That's like right. It just gives you some good pieces. Another thing that I really want to bring to the table as we wrap up is, therapy isn't for everyone, but learning relationship skills is. And I think we have to remember that even if we don't want to go into the deep, dark past or only talk about emotions, many relationship coaches and therapists doing the work the way you and I do know this. And we really want to give you practical tools. We really want to give you relationship skills. And sometimes that means we got to dive into some stuff, but it's not, hours and hours and hours worth. It's usually like a good 30 minutes of the session. And then the last half of it is like, okay, let's dive into what do we do with this? How do we change that habit? What is the practical tool you're going to do? So it's okay if therapy is not for you or your partner's a big no. Like over here in Europe, therapy is still like a what? But learning relationship skills, if you'll go learn emotional intelligence skills for work or how to speak in public or how to deal with imposter syndrome, you're going to learn relationship skills for your relationship, right? Like it's great to learn these skills, and it's stuff that you can use then anywhere, not just with your partner. So think of it that way. That piece is legacy work too, right? I'm going to be a better friend, a better coworker. I'm going to run this business better because I've learned these relationship skills with my partner.
Starting with asking questions.
Yes.
Yeah. Right? Asking good questions that bring up truth. Like I love rich conversation, right? And so at the table, we had my family and John's family, and we were all together. And I said, okay, we could go so many directions with this conversation. And I would love to hear from everyone, to go around and share what they're grateful for this year and what they're looking forward to. And so I facilitate that because, that's who I am. And because I want to know. I don't want this just to be like, okay, well, we'll just see what happens at this conversation, at this dinner table. Right. So there are ways that we can also take charge and then to become a better friend, to strengthen our relationships, to strengthen these relationships with ourselves. We get to ask really good questions that you will have access to from the link in the show notes for Katie's question cards and then for our relationship check-ins across the board. I mean, we have the tools for you right here. And now, take them into your life and share with us how you've been impacted. I want to hear from you, all of you. I want to hear from you, Katie, and I want your relationship questions. I'm like, yeah, I definitely would love to bring that in too, because when we can ask good questions, we can be more curious, and people generally love when you ask them questions.
Yes.
Like, people love me because I just ask a lot of questions. Yeah. Tell me about that. Tell me about, I want to know more. And then people feel really seen. And it's like,
right.
It's like this easy thing that we can do.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Anything else that we want to say that wants to come through?
No, I think we've done a really good job of reminding people of who they are and in the context of relationship, and that they have way more control than they think. And this mindset of I'm stuck or I don't know, using these types of phrases and terms are really just sort of a smokescreen to I actually do know. I'm afraid to ask those questions. Right? Mm-hmm. And so I agree. I encourage you to, get these resources and to reach out and to be willing to get vulnerable, because that's where the growth happens.
That's right. Yeah, that's what I see over and over again. Yeah. Beautiful. Katie, what an incredible conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it as well.
So much wisdom that you have and that you've shared with us today. Katie Rössler, everyone, find links to what she's doing, her legacy work, her relationship cards, and get in touch with her and see how her skills can support you. And of course, I'm here for you as well. Take care, everybody. Love you so much. Enjoy building these beautiful relationships with yourself and with those around you. See you next time.